Oh, so you thought John Harper was done? He's not. He's back with Blades in the Dark. Deep Cuts. Welcome back to the channel. This is the Sacred Art of Gaming, where we love talking about tabletop gaming. And in this case, we're jumping into the deep cuts for Blades in the Dark. This is, for context, and I think it probably even says this on the first page, but from what I recall before reading it, this is basically all the stuff that John Harper was realizing either in his own games or other people's games that they were doing, he was doing, whether good or bad, and he just wanted to release more stuff, and that is the deep cuts. Oh my goodness. This is not the first time I've opened this, but it makes a silly haunted house noise. Binding is holding on for dear life. Alright, to the deep cuts. Here are the contents of the book, split up into two sections, the setting and the systems. This will kind of give you an idea on the back. So 13 new innovations in various things, 25 factions, over 100 heritage and background options, a catalyst introducing a world-shaking event, interesting, a modified advancement system, revised harm and trauma systems, a diceless downtime system, and a new action system. Do tell, Mr. Harper, do tell. Alright, so for our innovations, there are some new standard items which are pretty neat. Like, for example, the percussion slug gun. Very interesting, and then the arc lighter. So if I were to kind of sum up what most of these changes are, at least on the setting side of things, I think it kind of like supercharges things a bit. I think the technology, some of the things that maybe he was thinking about that didn't quite make it to our tables. I mean, why would we? I think these things are a little more advanced, I guess. But yeah, we'll see. So they also jump into like ways to break down the calendars. Very nice. But here's some things like motorcycles and wheel steam cars, repeating coil guns. These were not really things that I was thinking of. But to be fair, I think Dishonored does have stuff like this. I don't want to dive too much into the factions because there are secrets here. But there's a ton of new factions. Like, for example, are the cabbies new? Guild of Public Coach Drivers. Why do I feel like there were already cabbies? The Brigade, firefighters of the city, loved for their heroics or hated for their looting. Okay, some sick art there. Covenant, and I'm just going to read off a few without showing them to you. Ciphers, Dockers, Foundation, and the Horde. The Horde, for example, is a mass of hollows united in some fell purpose. The Ciphers are a guild of messengers and parcel carriers of the city. The Ink Rakes, the journalists and newspaper publishers of Duskval. And I mean, this goes on quite a bit. Railjacks, blue collar workers who protect the rail lines against savage ghosts. Yeah, some of these definitely do exist in the game. I'm like fairly confident. Maybe they're just not fleshed out. Spark runners, free running scientists, revolutionaries. That's awesome. Take a look at that sweet art. More sweet art. Okay. The Unchained, a group of hulls who have no masters. I love that. Void divers, daring explorers who plumb the depths of the void sea. And then some underworld turf changes. It looks expanded a little bit there. Alright, now here are some heritage changes. Now, I thought this was pretty interesting because it goes by region. So these are for any region. You can have these and they kind of have their own little suggestions for things, stats, attributes, abilities, whatever the hell they're called in this specific game, that they may be good at. So like, for example, the Outlaw. Your family is wanted for crimes and have taken on false identities to hide from bounty hunters and the authorities. But it goes into each individual region, like Akaros, Dagger Isles, Aruvia, Scovlin, Severos, and Tycheros. Severos and Tycheros. I don't like the way those sound when I say them right next to each other. some additional background. So this is giving you even more stuff to build out your character with. You may consider a new twist on your background choice, a cover. If you choose your background as a cover identity, that means you're still maintaining your old life and responsibility as cover for criminal operations with your crew. Very interesting, with its own clock. Slight changes to the spider, and here is some additional or fleshing out of the academic, law and military, labor, noble, trade, and underworld. And these did exist. Like, I'm pretty sure like I was under the character that I'm currently playing that you may or may not have seen yet. I'm pretty sure it was labor and I want to say like servant or something like that. Yeah, servant. Worked as a maid, cook, butler, groom, valet, or gardener for a wealthy citizen or noble house. All that did exist, just maybe not spelled out as much. And then also consort, finesse, and survey are suggestions for that. And then this is the other living world for the catalyst. The ghost field touches another living world, a world that comes into contact with the shattered isles where the field wears thin. Ironically, the thinnest places are where lightning bearers have operated the longest, especially in Duskfall. This kind of feels a little bit like Dragon Age with the Veil, but specific to like ghosts and their various ghost spirits. And this dives into that a bit with different characters and their involvement, the factions, the assassins. Interesting. So this may be something, this gives you some additional score options that are related to that. Very interesting. Maybe, oh, okay. So it's actually going through all of the different types of gangs that you could be, with some potential hooks that are related to that. Okay, so now we dive into the systems, which is part 2 of the book. So this makes harm more flexible and impactful and provides a new way to earn XP. You'll notice that being a trend with a lot of these changes, being a new way to earn XP and being flexible. So when your character suffers harm, record it on your playbook according to its level. No change there. Okay, so it seems like the main change here that I'm seeing is that the level 2 is not bumping up to 3. So when you do this, harm never advances to level 3, even in your level 2 instances are filled. Okay. And this speaks to invoking harm. I mean, usually the the obvious ways that it happens, and especially being a part of a gang here. Some system changes here to special abilities. Okay. And then trauma. This module makes the immediate consequence of trauma less severe and provides a different way to earn XP. So yeah, another theme is just making it like easier, I guess we'll say. You need to mark stress while all your boxes are marked. Gain a trauma condition for your character. Mark one of your trauma boxes, then remove all your stress. Circle a condition from the list on your playbook, or create one of your own. Okay, yeah, all that seems the same from what I recall. Each of your character's trauma conditions can be invoked once per session to create a problem or complication for them. When you do this, mark XP. That part is definitely new. This speaks to load being a little bit more flexible, so this module changes how items are chosen before and during the score. So it does account for those changes here. And you kind of just mentioned that you're either conspicuous or discreet. If you have 4 boxes of items available, you may not bring any heavy items. You don't have to choose any items before the score. Conspicuous, you have 6 boxes. So this is makes a lot of sense for this game to see like how suspicious you look. If you're gonna go to a rival gang, for example, and you're armed to the teeth, that looks a little suspicious. So for advancement, the module slows the overall rate of player, character, and crew advancement. Interesting. So this kind of goes in the opposite direction to some degree. Instead of using the current XP trackers on your playbook, draw a set of 4 6-segment advancement clocks. Do the same on your crew sheet. Whenever you would mark XP, tick an advancement clock instead. To acquire an advancement, fill a number of advancement clocks as detailed below. When you gain the advancement, clear those clocks. Okay, so it's kind of like Ironsworn, sort of. Just a circle instead. I am playing Blades in the Dark without these rules, and that's somewhat intentional, even though I just got this book physically. But I kind of want to see. I want to see how it is before and after. And I'm doing a similar thing with Cairn and Flint. I want to see how I feel like without it and with it right next to each other, mid campaign basically. So Downtime, the module makes downtime activities diceless and changes several details of how they work. I'm indifferent about that. Let's go to something specific here. So for Fallout, the GM assesses the fallout from the score in the form of faction status changes, the amount of heat gained, and rep earned. I don't know that I would use that because with solo anyways, because I'm solo playing it right now, I like the dice rolling aspect of it. So if the crew's heat is 6+, when the fiction demands, the GM brings an entanglement into play. When crew gains a wanted level, mark 2 XP and pick blue coats below. I don't know. I'm indifferent on that. Development, instead of spending a lump sum of coin to rise in tier, you invest in crew upgrades over time to improve. These crew upgrades cost coin instead of... So there's quite a bit here. Something that is of note is the action roll, the threat roll, so to speak. So they made some changes to that. When you face a negative consequence from a dangerous opponent or challenging situation, make a threat roll to see if you can avoid it. To make a threat roll, roll 1d for each dot in the action you're using plus any bonus dice you have. Take the highest result to determine what happens. 6, you avoid the threat. 4, 5, suffer a reduced consequence or push yourself to avoid the threat. This part is new. And then threat, you suffer the consequence. Very interesting. And I believe it's also mentioned that the Devil's Bargain is somewhat different in here. This goes through all the different use cases of how that's different and different effects and consequences. I like this, effect and consequences examples. I feel like that's something that I could use. Devil's Bargain. When a scoundrel wants something and they can't simply achieve it, offer them a devil's bargain to get it by telling them either the cost to get what they want or a threat they need to face. Okay, that's, I mean, kind of what I felt like it already was to some degree, but this is just a little bit more pointed, a little more specific. This I would like a lot. Gathering information is just not its own separate thing anymore. It's a part of the normal game. Makes sense. Here's some system changes. So the system combines push yourself and resistance roll into one roll. Any mechanic in Blades that adds 1d to resistance roll adds 1d to push yourself roll instead. Mechanic that adds 1d to an action roll adds 1d to the threat roll mechanic. And when you mark your special armor to push yourself, you don't suffer any stress, so you don't need to roll. Some changes to some crew stuff and special abilities, some various threats of Duskfall, playbook changes, XP triggers, and some new playbooks. And then this is just the designer's notes on why he did what he did. And it kind of goes through just about everything. And that is more or less the book. Blades in the Dark, Deep Cuts. For me personally, I think I'm going to be utilizing this a la carte. I'll probably play with all of it at some point, right? Because I want to know. Sometimes reading it and doing it is a little different. But there's a lot of good stuff in here. Happy with the purchase. Let me know your thoughts regarding Deep Cuts or just Blades in the Dark in general. How many Blades in the Dark campaigns have you done, and how terribly did they end? I want to hear about it in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, do the nasty YouTube things that you gotta ask about, and I'm sorry. I'm kind of sorry. But thanks for the support. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one as we continue to explore the sacred art of gaming together.